Hi. My plan for today was to talk to you about links, because I think it's so important to understand how URLs work so you can stay safe online. But my whiteboard markers aren't working and I wanted to show it all, so I'll save that for next week. So instead, I've just written a blog post about a question a client asked me, because a client asked me the other day, why do hackers hack? They'd been spammed quite a lot. Someone was seemingly trying to get into their website by just filling in gobbledygooks in their registration forms, and they wondered what this person's game was. So I've just written them a blog post with some sort of reasons for it, really. Sometimes someone will try and get into a website so they can have a poke around and see what's there. And the obvious thought is that they're looking for payment information like credit card details, and sometimes they find it. Lots of websites don't store their own credit card information. If you run a website, it's really ideal that you don't store it yourself. You leave it in the hands of a bank or PayPal or something like that. But some do, and so sometimes hackers will strike gold and get in there and find that sort of information. Sometimes they'll just find personal information that then they can try and sell. If someone wants to buy a mailing list, then someone might come by a long list of users' account details. There is still the possibility that if a website doesn't store passwords properly, that a hacker could get in, get someone's passwords, and then try those passwords on other websites to see if they can log into other things that might have some more juicy information in. If your site doesn't store very much, but someone uses the same password to log into your site as they do their online banking, then that could be a reason someone would want to try and get the password. But passwords should be encrypted. They should be, even if they got hold of them, they shouldn't be very much use or very much they can do with them. It's also worth remembering that if someone hacks into one user account, or someone registers and gets into one user account, they're not going to just cherry pick one person at a time. They need database access for that sort of thing. They want to get thousands of people at one time to make it worthwhile. So it's all, you're looking at bigger hacks on like a database level really, when they want to get full mailing lists and lots of information about people. The one important thing to remember about hacking is that it's usually automated. So it'll be someone wrote a little code robot and it's going off sniffing around the web, filling in what forms it can find. Olden days, people used to, or spammers, stroke hackers, fine line. For me, a hacker is someone that really breaks into your website. So they're basically a burglar for your website, whereas a spammer is just sort of filling in junk in a form. But they might have filled in junk so that they could leave a URL in their comment and hope that comment would get published on your site, and then that URL in their comment would be a link back to your website. A link back to their website, which would help with their SEO and getting found in Google. But that's all really old school because Google don't appreciate that anymore, don't respect that anymore, and most blogging platforms don't let people leave a link in the same way in a comment anymore. Most of it is automated. It's just little robots out there looking around the web, looking for forms, looking for things to fill in, and trying to find a way in. But I guess still, the question is still there, is what is the motivation for hackers? Why do people hack? So there's the money one. There's the get in, get someone's credit card details, or get lots of personal information and sell that information to the black market. I don't know who you sell it to, but to someone who wants a mailing list. You can try and do that side of things. There's also, I don't think hacking is very often personal. It's generally not targeted. It's generally a hacker knows that there is a vulnerability in a WordPress plugin or a certain plugin, a certain third-party library, and it targets that library and it tries to get into that website to see what it can find. Sometimes it's really targeted. Sometimes a hacker is being paid to bring down a political site or a news site that is saying something that the person funding it doesn't like. Obviously, you hear on the news about government sanctioned hacks or government funded from other countries, like some governments paying hackers to break in to websites and see what government secrets they can steal. Obviously that is very targeted. Obviously they're not just going around any old WordPress, they're aiming for who they're aiming for. But mostly I would say hacking is just luck of the draw, seeing what they can get. You get ethical hackers, if you've ever heard of ethical hackers. So they are people who try and hack your website, and then if they manage it, they drop you an email and say, I hacked your website, I'm just telling you about it so you can fill up that gap and fix that issue that let me hack it before someone else comes along and does any harm. Would you like to give me a little bit of compensation for my troubles for telling you about it? So they are just trying to get paid, basically. They just ask you for a reward if they flag something up that you think was handy of them to tell you about. If you don't pay them and they're truly ethical, then they just go off on their way and try and find something else somewhere else. The weird ones, and I'm going to talk more about this another day. You might have heard of mining for cryptocurrencies. So then you get hackers that are trying to use your resources. So mining for cryptocurrencies, which is a big topic for another day, like I say, needs a lot of computer power. And so they'll hack into your server. They don't care about your website. They don't even look at what's on it. They just need your server and to use your computer power to help with their mining. And the same goes for some phishing campaigns. So if you know about phishing, if you get an email with a dodgy link in it, you click it, and it takes you to something that looks like your online banking, but it's not, and you log in and you've given these naughty people your online banking details because you logged into something that wasn't really HSBC or whatever, then often those pages are hosted. Those pages where you've gone and seen this fake bank website are actually hosted in someone else's account, and the hacker has hacked their way in just to host these pages somewhere, so that it's not their computer power, they're not paying for the hosting, but hosting is very cheap, but also it's not traceable back to them. If someone found this hosted page, they'd come knocking on your door and say, hey, why are you hosting this page? It looks like HSBC. And you'd say, I don't know anything about it, I must have been hacked, rather than them just being able to contact GoDaddy or whoever and look at the name on the account and find out who the hacker was. So there's that kind of piggybacking of hosting. That's another reason for hacking. And in those instances, they really don't care about you and what's on your website. They just want a way in. And one little sneaky thing to know about with hackers is that they'll often leave a backdoor. So even if you get hacked and you clear it up, you think you've gotten rid of all the hacked code, they might have left something somewhere that allows them to get back in again. Even if you patch up the way they got in originally, they'll leave what we call a backdoor so that they can come back again. So it's always a bit of a hunt to find that backdoor. It really is awful when people hack because it takes so much time. It takes a lot of your developers' time to even find out about it, clean it up, sort it out. Lots of company time of meeting and discussions and report writing in big organisations. What can you do about it? What happened? What information did they get? Do you need to report it to the ICO? So it really is in a lot of ways like a burglary. And there are people who just do it because they can. That is the final motivation I'll just talk about quickly. There are a lot of clever guys out there, guys and gals, both genders, all genders, who just do it because they can and because they want to, because, I don't know, they were bullied at school, they're underappreciated at work, they're not happy in themselves, they just want to show that they can do it. And they're clever and they can find all these new and novel ways. So that's often the reason for hacking, just because they can. So yeah, that's the main reasons I think for hacking. Sometimes monetary gain, sometimes to see what they can get to sell on, sometimes just to use your hosting for another purpose, and sometimes just because they can. I do want to come back another time and talk to you about if you've ever heard of DDoS attacks and brute force attacks and quite what they mean, because if you look after a website at all, then they're quite interesting to know the difference between. Okay, thank you, have a good week, cheers, bye.